Thank you, Don. As always, a unique perspective on the future, and probably one of the most tenuous links I've ever had between biblical times and modern day legislation. But one must wonder if the use of a lampstand might convince modern day people that won't follow the rules. The fact of being impaled on one of them might make a difference. So, yeah, food for thought. So, moving forward, in case I hadn't mentioned it, did anyone realise it's PASMA's 50th anniversary this year? No? Good. Right, so it's news to you. But did anyone realise that it's not just PASMA's 50th anniversary? It's actually the anniversary of the Health and Safety Executive, HSE, and the Health and Safety at Work Act that we talk about every day. Yeah? Good. Glad you're all up to date. Instructors, I'd expect you to know this. So over the past 5 decades, the HSE has played a pivotal role in shaping the safety standards that protect us all, particularly in the realm of working at height. Our next speaker is someone who is very familiar with these developments and their impact on our industry. Paul Cook from the HSE has extensive experience in the field of health and safety, in particular focus on preventing falls from height, a critical issue, as I'm sure you agree, and something we constantly look at given the recent release of more figures that show that work at height is still a major issue in the workplace. So Paul will be taking us on a journey through time, exploring how the landscape of safety, particularly regarding falls from height, has evolved over the years. So please join me in welcoming Paul Cook to the stage.
Thanks, Steve, for the introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Certainly a good time to be turning 50. It was my turn the other year, quite a landmark, so I know what it's like. But sorry, I know what you're all thinking. Don't look a day over 49. Enough said of that. Thank you. I've got a very short video to mark 50 years of the Health and Safety at Work Act. And when it got royal assent, and we'll be celebrating HSE turning 50 as an organisation in January next year. So I think my colleague's going to run a short video, please.
2024 marks 50 years of the Health and Safety at Work Act. The Act led to the creation of a national regulator for workplace health and safety, the Health and Safety Executive. This milestone is an opportunity to reflect on our achievements over the last 5 decades and look forward to the future challenges we will face as we continue our vital work to keep people and places safe. We're responding to today's changing world of work by keeping pace with social, political, environmental and technological developments. We continue our vital work of protecting people and places today and in the future.
So I'm sure you'll all agree the Act has helped transform the approach to workplace health and safety and resulted in far fewer people being killed, injured or made ill by their work. As I mentioned, January will see 50 years of HSE as an organisation. Things have come a long way since HSE and the Act were created, but the Act remains the heart of everything we do as HSE, combined with a sensible and proportionate approach to how we regulate. When we launched our latest strategy, it was important to show our continued commitment to our safety approach. It recognises the crucial and important role played by our partners and stakeholders in helping to keep people safe at work. And at this point, I'd say congratulations to PASMA for also reaching the big 50 milestone. And both our organisations have certainly stood the test of time over the last 50 years. And it's no coincidence that due to everyone's continuous commitment to safety and a combination of the Act, HSE, and the work at PASMA and all those across the access industry, we've seen falls accidents reduced significantly since 1974. But we must still strive to maintain our enviable position as one of the safest countries in which to live and work. Collaboration and engagement between HSE and PASMA has always helped to achieve this. So it's just a few key moments looking back at the various bits of good collaboration over the last number of decades. Some significant achievements, far too many to list in one slide, but I'll try and do my best to talk about some of the highlights that demonstrate our combined expertise and pursuit of keeping people safe. So the 70s was all about creating an occupational health and safety framework to operate in, and the creation of many organisations who would apply the principles and the regulations, goal-setting principles to follow, talk of hierarchies and steps, and not overly prescriptive. And again, I always find it a little bit tragic that it often takes something really bad to happen before something positive happens. So 50 years ago, I believe a young electrician died after falling from a mobile access tower, and that what was the trigger for the creation of PASMA. With a core mission statement that was all about keeping people safe when using mobile towers, it's all nicely aligned with HSE's own mission, purpose, and ambition to make workplaces safer and healthier. The 80s and 90s was all about expert guidance, codes of practice, and standards. And believe me, I know there was lots of hard graft by all those involved. HSE had started to create its own suite of guidance on law, but we relied heavily on PASMA and the access industry for its knowledge, which underpinned our work today. I'm one to love a good ACOP myself. I remember one of my first projects in HSE was to review and update around 50 other than working with colleagues, 800 industry guides, and again, turning them more into online material over recent times. Let's just say lots of bedtime reading. So the regulations and guidance were my thing, but I'm going to avoid any further talk of the history of standards. I think you've had enough of that from Mr. Don Ayres, so I'll leave that to Don. It was the 2000s that saw the introduction of the worker height regulations 2005. Again, a significant moment for the estimated 10 million people who do some form of working at height. Again, consultation and communication with everyone was vital, embedded in these regulations and upping everyone's game on health and safety. But it wasn't until 2009 when I personally got involved, so a relative newcomer compared to some people in the room. I joined HSE as a senior policy advisor and first worked on a falls campaign, all about telling the story, the devastating impact falls can have on victims and their families, how falls shattered lives. One of the other major projects around that time I led on was to work with Professor Lofsted on an independent review of health and safety. This was alongside dealing with recommendations from a government red tape challenge at the time. But both of these reviews were questioning the need for the regulations and called for a serious review of the worker height regs, some calling them burdensome. So where'd you start? Where we did start, the review led me to Peter Bennett, to PASMA, and all parts of the access industry, plus a large number of experts, again, many in the room today. A very scientific, detailed, and evidence-based consultation and conversation ensued. The review concluded with the government of the day deciding to keep the regulations unchanged. That followed a very robust and passionate submission that defended the need to keep them. I have to say, I wasn't particularly popular with a certain former minister. This recommendation, this minister had a legal background. I'm not going to name them. He wanted to slash and burn a lot of domestic law that derived from EU directives. So he wasn't best pleased with me, as he was adamant we had gold-plated the EU directive. So it was with everyone's backing in the industry, we were able to prove him wrong. After a line-by-line analysis, comparing every sentence in those regulations against the directive and other domestic law, it was a particularly proud moment, and the regulations remain intact to this day. I have to say there's a prize later in the bar for the first person who can tell me the name of the said former minister. I'll give you a clue. Let's just say he was well known for getting caught putting a lot of letters, private letters from his constituents in the bin outside Parliament. So first one to name them in the bar gets a drink off me. Okay, that's a promise. Again, what the review did highlight, though, and the many reviews, it was more about the interpretation and understanding of a massive guidance on regulation, as opposed to it being a problem with the regulations themselves. We had too much guidance at the time, and this is where I worked again with Peter, Jason, and colleagues to try and simplify and clarify the steps we wanted people to take to stay safe when using ladders, towers, scaffolds, or even abseiling down the shard. So that's what the challenge has always been about and remains, I think, today, ensuring people understand how to easily comply with the regulations and stay safe. But again, I'm going to touch, like others have today, on the future. So as we move forward, new approaches are needed to show how innovation can help keep people safe. HSE will continue to concentrate on enforcing current regulations, focusing on those areas that create the greatest risk to workers, residents now, and the environment. There are many new challenges. Just some examples include building safety regulation. You'll have no doubt seen and heard about the recent inquiry recommendations that we're currently considering. This last year we've been dealing with questions about spaceports, which have some well-known health and safety risks, as well as some new ones that need to be robustly managed. We all need to consider the implications of artificial intelligence. You've heard a lot about this today from some of the other presenters, virtual reality and many other technologies. And keeping pace with all the latest tech and the opportunities it brings is a massive challenge for everyone, as its use becomes more prevalent across all range of industries. We want to enable industry to innovate safely, particularly around major infrastructure decisions and large-scale transitions on things like energy sources and usage and transport that are potentially on the horizon. Speaking of major infrastructure, it'll be a miracle to see Everton playing in the new stadium very soon, but hopefully not as a championship side. But again, new technologies will also bring the need for new competency and capability in the workforce. Engaging and collaborating with our partners early allows us to influence the designing in of health and safety at the start of the development of new approaches to adoption of new technologies. And this is something PASMA and HSE have a proud record doing. So we are counting on your collaboration for the next 50 years, as no good organisations can deliver their missions alone if we are to keep protecting people and places. So don't forget to leave your message for the future of tower safety today. No idea is a bad idea, as they say. I thought today, on a more personal level, there's just a few people here I'd like to say a special thanks to for their expert help and support to HSE and myself on many joint projects. I'm probably at risk of missing a fair few people out here, so feel free to remind me later on. But to name a few, Jason Carlton, Chris Kendall, Don Ayres, Steve, John Bungay, Peter Bond, Paul Pritchard, Gillian Rutter, and Peter Bennett. Again, many thanks to PASMA for the invite to speak today. And thank you all for your dedication to safety. And thank you for listening. And I'll be around with you during the day and hope you enjoy your evening. And thank you. Thank you very much.